Hey, everybody, welcome to Feedback, the week of September 6th, or as I like to call it, the week that the games finally start coming out.
I know, it's
So
very
true.
exciting.
Our Lord and Savior Nolan
But too
Bushnell
many
is
now.
finally
It's like,
rolling them.
It's open. The floodgate
No.
is crushing us with games.
No, you
Yep.
don't. Just no sleep, man. We've talked about this. No
It
social
isn't-
life.
it's not a bad problem.
No loved ones. It's finally happening, and we're very excited. I've assembled a panel of elite pundits. We're going to throw out rhetoric.
Hey, what happened to those people?
I don't know. They didn't show up.
I like how we use the
This
elite,
10:30
though.
call.
We use
Yeah,
elite on
no,
purpose.
that's
Yeah,
good.
Well done.
Nice
I paid
work.
for that.
Didn't even write that, dude, in my brain. First up, Morgan Webb. She hosts X-Play. There's that. Tough yet somehow feminine with your pink skull shirt.
I told him to say that.
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
It's well
that
done.
wasn't just in your brain.
No. Also, KK.
I like it.
Mr. Kevin
I like it.
Kelly.
Shorten it up.
And then creative strategist. Not a real job, by the way. Creative strategist from Infinity Ward, Robert Bowling. Robert, thanks for joining us, sir.
Hooray. Special guest. Very
Spoiler
nice.
alert, we're going to be talking about Call of Duty at some point today. But let's start off, we do have a ton of games coming out, obviously. Let's talk about how you're going to play those games. We now have a Gears of War 3 Xbox, a Star Wars Xbox. Now we have a Call of Duty Xbox bundle. Do we need more Xboxes
Yes.
in our lives?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
I know you fell in love with the R2-D2 Xbox at...
Okay, because when you hit the button, it makes R2 sounds. So dumb.
It is kind of good.
I know. You've really got to work on that argument a little bit. That said, I'll buy it totally
No, I
because
know,
it makes
because I'm
R2
going to buy
sounds.
one, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Even though
But what they do is they
don't
give you
want
the...
Lego Star Wars or whatever Connect Star Wars
But you
adventures.
do
I don't
want that
game.
bigger hard drive, and that's the only way to get it is by getting the new console, which is
I'm on
really
my,
annoying.
literally, I'm on my 4th Xbox.
See?
And I've never red ringed. They all have mysterious issues. Like one only outputted black and white, and then with rainbow stripes.
That's a
Really?
feature.
Yeah, that sounds like a very rare Xbox to me. Right?
Yeah, that was special. Yeah.
Great spin, by the way. I can tell what you do now. No, that's just a feature, man.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
good.
the Rainbow Xbox.
You creatively strategized that answer right
The
there.
Shroom Xbox. It's very exclusive. You should have gotten an achievement for that.
I think that, and we talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago. The larger hard drives are somewhat appealing because there's a lot of games to download now, and I think that you need more space. But personally, I think a lot of people are going to buy it just because they're skinned the way that they're skinned. Yeah, it's totally fine.
So true.
Obviously, we know what you're going to do. Kevin, are you going to purchase any of these?
I don't know. The Star Wars one is pretty cool. The Modern Warfare one's cool too. I love that night vision. I can't
Yeah.
make that sound with my mouth, but
Can you make the sound?
I don't.
that's closer than mine.
good?
A lot
Pretty
closer
good?
than mine.
It's like a broken lightsaber is what that sounded like.
But I want it because I want the hard drive, so I may have to break down and get one of these because 320 gigabytes is so much sexier than my 250, which is starting to get full.
And by sexier, do you mean girls will come into your living room and be like,
Oh my
"That is
God,
a
your hard
sexy
drive.
Look at the
hard
size of
drive."
that thing.
That
They need
happens
to make them
already.
bigger, though. Yeah. Well, it's great that we actually have you here because a lot of times we just speculate as to why companies do this, but we never actually know why. Other than usually we end on, well, they just want to take our money. But why? I mean, we've obviously got a bundle coming out, a Call of Duty bundle. Why do companies kind of feel the need, you think, to roll out these bundles outside of servicing obviously the fan base? Because it's really cool if you're into Star Wars to have an R2 Xbox. Like, why do people kind of roll out these bundles?
You already hit the nail on the head. It's all fan service. I mean, it's the same reason we do collector's editions. Like, that stuff isn't for the profit because the profit margins aren't there.
Right.
It's purely for the fan service. It's for, like, the hardcore guys who want something really cool and something even more unique than everyone else has. For me, I want it because I want the Xbox in my bathroom to be cooler than the Xbox in my living room.
Wow.
God, I love you, man.
Now I know what creative strategist does. Plays Xbox in the bathroom.
Yeah.
It is 90% of my job duties.
Now we found out that Xboxes are apparently waterproof. That's nice. Let's move on a little bit to, and this is kind of interesting. Blizzard and Valve, they want consoles to unite over the internet, which is something pretty unique. Valve's Gabe Newell, a guy that's pretty outspoken in general, but and a lot of times I think what he says, in a way, kind of pushes what Valve's kind of mantra is, but like he seems to actually have a bigger picture and wants to start working with other people, which is something he's only really started to do in recent years. Started by the whole PlayStation 3 thing a couple years ago at E3, but he said they want to figure out how to make the internet better instead of figuring out how to keep customers off the internet. And then Blizzard's Frank Pierce told Develop that it would be ideal to have a unified online community regardless of the platform that gamers are playing on. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but then you come into the problem now. Someone's playing on a controller and someone's playing on a PC, and those experiences aren't necessarily going to be the same.
From a development standpoint at Infinity Ward, we'd make sure that the gameplay experience is the same across every platform. But from a balancing standpoint, that's a whole nother, bag that you have to look at of like, how do we balance between PC shooters and console shooters? I mean, Shadowrun did it very well back when they released for the Xbox 360 into PC play by doing how quickly the reticle comes. But there's a demand for it. I mean, people want to see it. I would like to see it to a degree. I mean, with us, especially with Call of Duty, our PC audience is so unique compared to our console audiences, though. I mean, it's such a variety of tastes of what our PC audience are looking for out of their shooter and what our consoles. So, I mean, you're getting to a point where now you're looking at developing a platform rather than a game.
Right. I think it's interesting that you brought up Shadowrun because I thought what they did was leagues ahead of what other people were doing. They were very forward thinking, but there was, although they did things right, there were some balance issues. But I mean, you're talking about Valve and Blizzard. Blizzard on a day-to-day basis pretty much focuses on balancing. I mean, that's typically at this point in Warcraft, they're just constantly working on making it as balanced as possible. Now we have these two titans of industry that are talking about potentially working together that know a lot about balance. So could we maybe see a PC and a console audience come together if these two people can provide a more seamless experience? Because the biggest complaint, I think, with Shadowrun was people said, I just don't have the accuracy and the quickness of a mouse and a keyboard when I'm playing on my console.
Right, yeah. I mean, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be these two people. I mean, look at what Valve has done with Steam in terms of, changing the way people look at the PC market. So, I mean, I have faith that they could do it, and if they're going to do it, they'll do it right.
Right.
But
And,
I also worry a little bit about, the PC getting put cheats on, mods on. There's a lot of things that they can do to that content that they're not going to be able to do on the Xbox.
Right. And then the bigger question, since they have a console in every home in the world, Kevin, does Nintendo embrace this philosophy?
No, Nintendo
do not.
never does what you want them to do or expect them to do, especially if it involves the internet. So that's not going to happen.
The internet is dangerous. There's bad people out there. I need a 7,000-digit friend code.
Your friend
to
code
meet
that no one
anybody.
can decipher and understand what it means. But Shadowrun was so long ago. It's so interesting that it's taken this long to kind of bring this back around. But I think it shows the prevalence now of services like Valve, Steam, and then PC gaming on the rise again. I was kind of surprised when I read that Portal 2 sold more copies on PC than it did on consoles. And I was at QuakeCon in that BYOC room, and I was like, man, these people are super passionate.
Okay, but you're at
about PC
QuakeCon.
game.
I mean, this
True, I kind of shot
Also,
myself in the foot by saying that.
it's self-selecting.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it was just
was
also
in the
they weren't
wild.
playing games. They were it was just a giant porn transfer LAN party is what you weren't seeing
It was very
behind the
bizarre.
scenes.
It was like the Lord of the Flies a little
Yeah.
bit in there.
Yeah.
Strange.
But I think that we're moving it to a world where these things will exist, and people are only going to want to pay $60 for one version of this, and so the better they can provide that across all platforms, I think.
right. I mean, and that's something that I really like that Blizzard does is that I buy the code. Now I have that game. I can download that on my Mac, my PC, whatever I want, and maybe one day a console too. And I think that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
And speaking of console games, there's a little game coming out called Modern Warfare 3.
I've never heard about it.
is
Tell
this?
me more.
I don't know much about 3, but 1 and 2 had modern-ish warfare.
Oh, good to
so
know.
I assume that 3 will have more of the same. But you're right, not many people know about it. So in order to raise awareness of the game, they had a party here in Los Angeles over the weekend where two of the weirdest... The weirdest combination of concerts of all time went on. Dropkick Murphys followed by Kanye West. What? Makes no sense, but it was a big fan experience that you guys had here over the weekend in Los Angeles. 3 days of fun-filled ziplining and multiplayer madness. And Kevin had the opportunity to go and spend all 72
I
hours
was the lucky
there.
recipient of the golden ticket.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
I want to hear your experience.
Well, I've been to BlizzCon for years, and that's kind of a cool, fun experience. But XP was different because there was stuff to do, like paintball. Blizzard is walking. BlizzCon's
You could
walking around
follow
looking
the
at people
meeting
and-
stone around. Man, they had a dude in a meeting stone that walked around,
That's
and
what
you could
and
meet
you could go
around
around
it.
it.
and meet but panels and cosplay, that's kind of BlizzCon's thing, and they do it well, but it's I want to have some fun kind of experiences, and that zip line was awesome. The paintball was awesome. They even had a Jeep experience. People were waiting 3 hours in line to ride a Jeep with, I think, a Navy SEAL behind the wheel or something, kind of giving you an off-road experience, and people were eating this stuff up. It was crazy.
Right. And I think one of the most interesting things about it is typically first of all, when something like this happens, it's usually an evening. It's never a 3-day experience for one game. And for the majority of the content is directed towards the media. You want coverage. That's why people go to these things. But for this, it really was all about the fans. And I think it's a pretty unique way to celebrate the launch of this game. Granted, the other two games, you guys made enough money to throw a decent sized party. It's like, yeah, you can't really have a good birthday party this year because Daddy lost his job. No, Mommy and Daddy did not lose their jobs. Mommy and Daddy have gotten promoted over the last couple of years, and that's why you're having this birthday party. But talk me kind of through the decision to make this big event, and frankly to make it over the course of 3 days, which is a really big deal. I mean, we're talking E3 or PAX. We're talking about a convention for one game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it came over how our community has grown since Call of Duty 4. I mean, we're at 30 million people online now, and the thing that is so unique about our community is that these guys are so involved in every process of the thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not just the fans who, when the game comes out, they play hundreds of hours. They are those fans, but more importantly, they are talking to us through every stage of development, telling us what they like, definitely telling us what they don't like, making sure that they're being involved as we're developing the game. So when it came time to multiplayer reveal, the thing that these guys are most passionate about, we wanted to make sure that they got to come out, they got to hang out, most importantly, play the game, but also do cool shit that you just don't get to do, and just have fun. I mean, what made it worth it for me was when I walked off stage from the keynote, and this guy walks up to me, he's like, "Hey, thanks for bringing us together." Because it was like literally like a party. It was like I invited them over to my house with other Call of Duty friends.
Right.
And except it just happened to be in a giant hangar for 3 days.
Your house was awesome,
Yeah.
man.
It's pretty impressive.
Your house is
Thank
big
you.
enough to seat 7,000 people. That's amazing. Dude.
And to create the spruce goose inside of it. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Well, I thought what was really crazy was when they gave the keynote and they were announcing some of the changes they've made to Modern Warfare 3, one in particular, there's no more Last Stand perk. And people went freaking nuts. The people in front of me stood up and they were like standing ovation, applause, and I'm like, wow, this is the pulse of the community right here. It's crazy. Yeah, that was like, I've never stood up and cheered for a change to a game. I mean, maybe I'm jaded but these people were so happy about that. So
I may have stood up at BlizzCon once or twice.
Yeah, I believe this one time we were sitting on the floor, and when Cataclysm was first announced, Morgan was like, "Yeah."
Sit down.
I'm definitely in front of everyone. They recognize me, and this is quite weird. Let's talk about some of the other, and I quote, to do there. One of the things I found interesting was you kind of recreated gameplay experiences for people to reenact in real life. How well, Kevin, from a fan standpoint, how well did that go over? Because I'm like, this is really fun, and if this was real life, I would kill this. And then if I show up and I got to run through like a bunker and shoot at people, I'm like, no, too much activity.
Well, the paintball experience was it's not anything like the game. It was cool because they piped in actual sounds from the video game into the playfield, so you could hear it over these large speakers. But there were our training consisted of, I think, like 3 minutes worth of a quick video, and then you're given a gun and you're like told to go shoot things.
Which is how real war occurs,
exactly.
by the way.
It's like
So
training is
the training montage in a movie is actual training in the military, just so you guys know.
And I don't know if you've been hit with a paintball before, but it hurts. You know, it stings. And so they're throwing us out there, and there were guys that were so big they couldn't fit into their jumpsuits. That was a little, so they're like tied at the waist and everything. And I'm like, they're like exposed arms, and I'm like, these guys are gonna get killed. But
they're in it to have a good time.
Yeah. They were, and they did. Everyone had a blast. I played with Dana. We had a fantastic time. Kristen and Blaine played, and it was a little nuts. But that was definitely my highlight, was the paintball.
My favorite part about the paintball is we're like, oh, okay, well, what are they going to play? And they're like, oh, well, they can play TDM, which is just paintball. I'm like, but then everyone will just hide. Let's make them play domination, so they all have to go to a center point and get shot.
That's mean, man. That's not very. You should not have admitted this. They will watch this.
Although quickly, what that devolved into was the game started. Somebody would run for that flag, raise it in the middle, and then everyone would just hang back and kind of guard that flag and shoot.
They're like, and let's talk about. I find it interesting that there is fans, like you said. This is the pulse of the community. They came here to play multiplayer, basically. They paid $150, and we'll talk about kind of what that got you, because you guys delivered, I think, a huge surprise. Like, people definitely got their money's worth from the gift bag alone, which we'll get into in a second. But I feel like, personally, if I were to pay $150 to go out for 3 days, I'm sure a lot of people traveled to have this experience. Having like something like a Kanye West concert, for me, would kind of put the brakes on the experience I was having. And that's just me personally. Like, I just want to play video games for 72
not a Kanye
hours.
Fan?
No, I mean, it's not that I don't like him. He's just an asshole, so I don't like him. But what did the fans kind of respond to? I mean, were they like, this is great, but could we keep playing the video game? Because that's what I'm here for. Like, did you feel like, did people respond to everything you guys did? Is there anything you wish you could have changed? Is there anything maybe looking forward for Modern Warfare 4? I'm sure this game will probably move a couple of copies, and 4 will exist. Is there anything maybe you would have done different?
I mean, from the experience standpoint, I think everything was fantastic. I mean, people seem to really enjoy, because I hung out way more at the Dropkick Murphys concert than I did the Kanye concert. But the Kanye concert was packed. Like, we had more people there than anything.
Right.
So people had a great time, and that's what it was all about. It was about just come and have a fun time, regardless if it's in the game or out of the game. So people had a good time. The only thing I would do differently is just, more games. Like, focus on throughput of, like, making sure everybody who's there gets as much time as they want on the game. Because, as you said, people were waiting 3-4 hours for some of these experiences, which is awesome. But, I mean, if you could get that down to less than an hour, that would be ideal.
It's always hard, I'm sure, to figure out how many consoles you're going to need, how many setups you're going to need, because you don't want a bunch of empty ones because that's a lot of money wasted, but you also don't want people waiting like 4 hours to check out the game or anything like that.
Exactly. I mean, back to the house party analogy, it was that, like, you plan a party, you send out 500 invites, and then the night before the party, you're like, nobody's going to show up. I have too many chips. And then you're like, where are all the chips? So it was that kind of freak out moment that, but everybody had a good time. I mean, like you said, the people who traveled in, that was insane. Because I gave out like 20, once the tickets sold out, I had 20 tickets left, and I just like set out on Twitter. I was like, if you're in LA and you want to come tonight, just let me know and I'll give you a ticket. And this one guy was in Arkansas, and he said, I just checked the plane tickets. I could be there by 8 a.m. if you give me a ticket. And I was like, I'm going to give you a ticket just to see if this happens.
Right.
And then Saturday night, I was walking out of XP, and a dude came up. He's like, hey, I'm the guy from Arkansas that gave a ticket. I was like, you actually came?
Wow.
I was like, oh, that's so cool.
He had a beard, didn't he? He did. It's fine. I'm from Louisiana. We can make these generalizations. It's totally fine. And the guy came, and I think everybody that was there got rewarded. First of all, to clarify, the $150 was not just so they could make a bunch of money. It was actually for a foundation that you guys have, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Every cent of it went to the Call of Duty Endowment, which helps veterans and their families transition back into civilian life.
Right. Which in and of itself is a great thing, and I think pretty much everybody there would donate regardless of what they got in return. Not only did they get 3 days of kick-ass content
And Kanye
West.
You said that as if it's separate points.
Yeah, it is. It's an add-on. It really is. Kanye would be the DLC that I would never buy. Nice. But you guys also gave a super cool gift bag worth far more than what you guys charged for people to get in anyway. What was in the gift bag?
Doritos.
Yes.
So
you didn't run out of chips.
No. So everybody who attended XP obviously got all like the cool exclusive stuff, like the Modern Warfare 3 Mountain Dew and the Doritos and all that cool stuff. But most importantly, everybody got a free hardened edition of the game, which includes obviously the game, all the collector stuff, and a year of Elite service, which gives you every DLC that we will ever come out with, even stuff we haven't even planned yet.
Which is amazing. I
Right.
mean, and we're seeing a lot of people move towards it. I know Gears, they now have kind of their subscription. I forget what it's called, and forgive me.
Season Pass.
The season pass. But I mean, that's something that I definitely was interested in talking to you about, because people know now that in order for their game to be successful, they need to constantly roll out DLC, and there needs to be more than just the $60 standalone title. Are you guys going to start looking, and do you think the industry is going to start looking towards maybe offering a pass? Like you said, like, we don't really know what we're going to do, but we're definitely going to do enough so we can charge people for a year to have this content. Do you find that maybe the business model is moving towards that as opposed to just paying for standalone content?
I think it is. I think the mentality behind it is looking at giving more options. So giving more options to our hardcore guys who we know are going to play it and who are going to buy every single one, and giving them a choice of like, hey, here's a better way to do it for you because you're hardcore, and then still also having that if you don't want to subscribe to that, if you don't want to commit to that, you still have the option. So that's the direction we're going, and I think more people are going. Is just giving the players more options, and I think that just happens in every industry as new streams of content come online, and you figure out the best way to release them.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be a limit. Like, there's going to be, of course, a limited number of games we're going to be able to get away with this, which will definitely help. But it's also nice. It's a one-time fee rather than like a monthly subscription fee, because you can just pay it, you're done, and now you don't have to pay for the map packs in the future, which people were starting to get all ticked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Kevin, I mean, you're somebody who's covered games for quite some time and seen the industry change. Are you excited about this change? I mean, I personally, like Morgan said, it's like Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I will buy so much toilet paper from Amazon because I don't have to pay for shipping because I spent $70 at the beginning of the year.
2 days.
Oh, and it's
Although I hope you
fantastic.
don't need toilet paper. Like, I hope you have enough to cover yourself from order to order.
I got a thing that I'm trying to work through with the doctor right now.
I got it.
It's not your business though, but I mean, it's something that's pretty unique, I think, and we've seen the industry evolve quite a bit.
I have to admit, when we were at the press event where they announced Call of Duty Elite, I was kind of like, what? This feels like a money grab, and I'm not sure. And But then when they kind of detailed slowly, and then finally at the XP, we got like the full list of everything you get with Elite. It's quite a bit, and I'm like, and I'm one of the people who gets all those map packs anyway. So you're saving money right there just on the map packs alone. But you're going to get a lot more content and other stuff, and you're going to get it first. And then they have that cool announcement about the Hollywood talent is making some Elite TV. They're calling it. They got Jason Bateman and Will Arnett and Tony and Ridley Scott making some cool stuff. And I was like,
I hate it. I'm sorry. I just hate it. I just hate it.
Do tell Morgan. And by the way, I
just
promise
hate
that
it.
I will not go on any rants today because everybody knows how I feel about celebrities. So it's nice to have you here. Morgan, let's talk about Hollywood talent dipping their soiled fingers into art.
I think
Please
you said
continue.
it very nicely, actually.
No,
I hate that Hollywood mentality, and I just hate seeing it in video games, and I hate the celebrity worshiping society that we have. It drives me so mad. It makes me so mad.
but it's not really celebrity-driven stuff. Like, you're not going to be seeing, like, they're just providing voices, I think, right? Will Arnett and-
Well, they're the production company behind it, so
Right.
they're not in the content; they're creating the content.
Same with Ridley and Tony. They're kind of like came up with the concept for the Friday night fights.
Exactly, and then we're executing on it. So the cool thing is, let me justify my buddy.
Creatively
sell me on it a little
strategize. Time to creatively
Sell me on it.
strategize.
Let me justify, especially my Dum Dum, which is Will Arnett and Jason Bateman's company. Let me justify that because here's my dividing line, because I feel the same way you do. Of like, I will never pay a celebrity to endorse our game who doesn't, like, obviously they have fees that are associated with doing their job, but I will never pay someone who doesn't play our game, who isn't a fan of our game. I won't do it. Will Arnett, I play with every single night, and I have been playing Call of Duty with him since Call of Duty 4. And we came up with this like concept together a long time ago and did stuff, and it was funny and it was awesome. And then it naturally morphed into this, rather than us saying, we want content, we have no clue what it is, let's just pay these people because we like their name. Boom. Thoughts?
Okay. I don't hate that, and I also I don't hate like Jay Moore, for example, like who actually really does play video games and is really hilarious and that kind of thing. I worry it's inevitable that video games are just going to turn into sort of this content machine, and Hollywood's going to make horrible movies about it, and it seems like kind of inevitable. And I just love this time when video games feel a little bit more like by us and about us versus by Hollywood.
You're like the person who liked the band before, and then when they get popular, you're like,
Exactly.
well,
I liked video games
I liked them back in
before
the
they
day.
were cool,
Yeah.
you guys. Before they were cool.
Like the band Love Burger from Can't Hardly Wait that Frank's brother was in and the lead singer of. That's a Frank Meyer joke right there, ladies and gentlemen.
nice,
but
tie it in.
Robert,
Celebrity.
this is a question that I know we've talked about this quite a bit. I've been very, very outspoken about celebrities getting involved in our culture anyway, specifically pandering to us and the weaker versions of us to take our money because they're cool, because they're nerds. But be honest with me here, from a top level at some point, do you guys have pressure from your superiors to get celebrities involved in your game? And then is it your job to say, no, I won't, I will never pay a celebrity? But is there ever a point where they're like, look, by adding this person, we can guarantee this guy's got 5 million Twitter followers. That's going to translate into at least 150 to 200,000 copies of a game being bought.
Yes, and yes. So yes, you will get pressure like that because that's the difference between corporate and creative.
Right.
And then, yes, it is our job and my job specifically to say, no, that doesn't feel right. I feel wrong. Stop doing this to me. So, yeah, I mean...
So no Kim Kardashian endorsing.
Right.
Didn't have to do it this week. I'm so glad you're here. Along those lines, though, what is the most ridiculous celebrity request that your superiors have said? We need to have Paris Hilton be a downloadable zombie in this game, which, by the way, would be
That
awesome.
would be awesome, actually.
And I would
totally
shoot
buy
the
that.
crap out of her face. Wow, that's happened already. But what's like the most ridiculous?
God.
There it is.
He's off the rails.
What's the most ridiculous request that you've had handed to you?
I don't even know. Right now, all I'm thinking about is Kanye's request for a live buffalo, but
What?
which was killed. We didn't kill the buffalo.
The request was
was killed.
Damn, that almost sounded pretty cool for a second.
But I don't even know because I don't get that far. As soon as I hear a celebrity name that I do not intimately know because I play the game with them, I zone out. I just pass out.
Right.
I have an instant coma reflex when I talk to corporate that it's an amazing ability to get out of meetings.
What's the number one celebrity that you've heard where you immediately went comatose?
Oh, I don't even know.
Come on, you got to have one. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. No way.
No, I mean, most of that stuff comes whenever we're discussing voice talent, and you
Right.
have that conversation because traditionally in our games, in the Infinity War games, we've never hired a voice talent because of their name.
Right.
Like most of our guys are like, amazing at what they do, like Kevin McKidd, who was Soap in our last game. Like, I love him. But, at the time, like, he was doing a great job. He just wasn't that name.
Right.
So that's where we focus on.
Right. I think it's great that we, at least games like this, can make those people famous, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like David Hayter's, an established Hollywood screenwriter, but he's always going to be Sal the Snake. You know what I mean? Which is pretty cool.
Got the dulcet tones.
Yeah, he totally does. Now, this is the part of the show where, since we have a guest, I usually get to ask them questions, but that's not really that fun for me. I want you guys to ask Robert questions as well. So I'm going to start with Kevin, because he is because he's the only journalist here from G4TV.com. He is the
Underrepresented.
the best journalist we have on G4TV.com.
Booyah.
The only one here.
Wow.
Kevin, any
Check is in
questions
the
you
mail.
have for Robert?
Well,
that you wanna throw his
the
way?
only questions I know everyone that's kind of watching this at home that wasn't able to go to the event probably read some of our coverage on Friday when we were able to start talking about stuff. But kind of like, just talk us through briefly some of the bigger changes you guys have made, because multiplayer is really different this time around.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we've made some fundamental changes to how you played the game, and I mean, all of that has been sourced from since Call of Duty 4, because you'll see a lot of Call of Duty 4 influences in MW3. You'll see a lot of tweaks from MW2. The biggest stuff is how we've revamped the kill streak system and moved it over into the point streak system. So now it's not all about kill death ratio. It's not all about getting kills. It's about obtaining points, and you can get points through kills, yes, but you also get points through completing objectives. So it doesn't ignore our objective players like we have in the past. You can get points for assists, every 2 assists with Hardline Pro, building up to your next point streak reward. And then most importantly, the philosophy as a whole has been being more accessible to every type of player. So your objective player, your S&D player, your CTF player, as well as your team deathmatch player. So now you can choose what sort of point streak reward you want. If you want assault, which is traditional helicopters, airstrikes, things that will get you kills, or you can be support, which is all about stuff that makes you be a better objective player, helps your team be better, not just you. So you're calling in vests that you can hand out to your guy who's running into the dom point. You can call in a recon drone that allows you to get eyes up in the air and like spot targets so they show up on the map, get more situational awareness, things that support your team to do what they do. And then, of course, specialist package, which is the third option that you can do, which is all about that lone wolf player. And that, you have no air support, you have no tactical support for your team. It's all about unlocking perks for yourself to be a better solo player, which is great for things like FFA or if you're lone wolfing in TDM.
And I read also that, and I forget who was quoted, but they actually said it is the most, that particular package, the most rewarding, but definitely the most difficult package to kind of move forward. And because everybody else has all of these new team-based things they can work with, and you're the dude who's going in there blind.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have all that support. It's the greatest test of individual skill like we've ever done in the game.
Very nice, very nice. Morgan Webb, any questions for creative strategists? Robert
Yes, I have
Bowen?
questions about creative strategy. So you have the Elite Premium, which is $50, but you also have sort of a content package that doesn't cost any money, but you register for, right? So what are the differences between the sort of levels of content that you can get?
Right. So the Elite service as a whole is available. It's optional to every user. You just sign up, link your gamer tag, and that allows you to have access to all, the full stat tracking, the ability to create groups, the ability to create clans, to have all those private clan features, to, push your custom class to the game, to have your standard, 30-second video uploads, your high-res screenshot captures, and all that stuff is free and accessible to everyone. And then the only other tier is the premium service, the $50 one, which basically subscribes you to all DLC for the lifetime of the game. And then also gives you the advanced video features. It gives you so much more video content. It's for our super hardcore guys who are diving in there, doing all this stuff already, and now we're giving them the tools to do it. And then, of course, gives you access to all like the super high-end tournament stuff and competing stuff where you can win cash prizes and real-world prizes and all that.
And I do want to ask, because I think there are casual players out there who go in, you get your ass handed to you, and you're like, cool, I'm going to go make dinner. How are you trying to integrate or try to help the new player, the casual player, get involved versus getting their ass kicked?
2 ways. One, giving them information that allows them to decipher why they're getting their ass kicked so they can learn more, because you can go in there and just keep getting bad and you'll naturally get better with practice. But if no one identifies for you what you're doing wrong, it's hard to see. Like if you can't watch someone else do it well and learn from that, then that's difficult to become better. So Elite helps you with that, but then more importantly, it helps you expand the people that you play with. So now you can start looking at groups of other people who you can play with and learn directly from them how to become better players. And of course, there's tons of video contents on there that break down every weapon, strategies, map layout, stuff that if that's how you learn, you can go in there and basically, without having to ask somebody or feel intimidated, just get a complete lowdown of how everything in the game works, which will help you become a better player.
Sounds scary to me still. I just want the big explosions and the cinematic
That's
stuff.
why I just play with my friends.
Yeah. And for me personally, this is kind of off topic a bit, but what are you playing? What games are you excited about right now? What are you playing right now? And then obviously in the next 3 months, it's just this embarrassment of gaming riches that we have outside of course, the T-shirt that you're wearing. What are you excited about?
Right now, like, when Batman Arkham City comes out, I'm going to put as many hours as physically possible into that game.
Nice.
Because right now I'm in a drought for me, because the only thing I'm playing is Modern Warfare 3. I play multiplayer every night. It's the only thing I have time to play because I'm not going home until super late. So that's the only thing I'm playing. So I can't wait for this floodgate to open because I want to be playing Batman. I want to be playing Gears 3. Like, you know, I have a tradition of midnight. Every time a Gears comes out, I just jump on co-op with a buddy and we just power through it all night and then immediately go into multiplayer. So that's going to be a solid weekend of my life that is only that game and nothing but that game. So those are the two big ones.
And
for
you have
me
fun
right
because
now.
it's a longer campaign this time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, good. The thing is, like, again, right now, I am so, like, oblivious to, like, all the news people are putting out besides us. Like, I didn't know that about Gears 3. Like, I get bits and pieces.
It's like I didn't know there was going to be a campaign. This is shocking to me.
So, that's why this time is so good for me, because I get it fresh. I'm not spoiled at all about anything. So, Batman #1, first and foremost.
Thank you for that, by the way. It's also what I'm...
I know you're kind of excited about that one. October 14th, I think? 14th?
I don't know, because I got to get it... Hopefully got to get it a little early, because New York Comic Con is the week I think that Batman comes out. So it's like, oh, how am I going to do that? I'll figure it out. But I don't want to start taking meth again to stay up, because I can't get back.
But you'll
I can't
do it
get
if
back.
you
hard to get
have
off
to.
of
But
it.
I'll do it if I have to, but I'd rather try to get it a little early. And then kind of before we go into our game of the week, which Morgan had a lot of hands-on time with, the last thing I want to ask you, we are in this point of the year where it's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff to play. Now, traditionally, the reason this occurred and the games came out at this time is for holiday sales. And, you know, people were saving money to buy their kids presents. We now live in a world where games can come out at any time and they'll still do well. So why are we seeing this giant roadblock of games at the end of the year every year? Because summer is a feasible time now.
Yeah,
People are going to
absolutely.
buy games for their kids. At this point, your kids are sitting home during the summer not doing anything. If you're like my little brother and who didn't have the life that I had because I had to work all the time. Whatever, but why are we just still seeing games come out at the end of the year? Because these development cycles, they're they're 3 or 4 years typically to develop something. But at this point, you pretty much know you can finish your game for the summer if you really needed to. So why are we still seeing stuff come out at the end of the year?
I think people are naturally starting to spread out, and people are trying to find where their sweet spot is. You know, you're finding those games like Call of Duty. It's a November game. You expect
Why is
it
that?
in November.
Why is that?
It's how we have a 2-year development cycle, and it just naturally ends in November.
Right.
It ends in late September, but releases by November.
Right.
And that's just the schedule we're on, and we're not going to artificially change that, because I think where before everything came out in the holiday season, now things are spreading out, and there's still the illusion of those tentpole games are like, we're the holiday game.
Right.
Everyone else can spread out.
Right.
And for us, that's just our development cycle. But you see Gears coming out, a little bit earlier. You see other games coming out, so they're spreading out slowly.
Right. And Gears has a campaign this year, so that's pretty new to the game.
But
which
with a
will be-
tight development cycle like that, like, are you guys going to be able to kind of, how Activision had Guitar Hero, and then there was suddenly Guitar Hero every 5 minutes, it seemed like, and then that franchise kind of went away because it was oversaturated a bit. Call of Duty is still extremely popular right now, but tastes are fickle, and down the road that might not be the same. So you think that development would have to kind of change a bit, make the game a bit different. With a tight cycle like that, are you guys still able to kind of plan ahead that way?
Well, we take it game by game. So, when Modern Warfare 3 ships, I mean, first and foremost, we're going to be playing it and figuring out how we can post-launch support it. But once we start deciding our next game, that's the decision we make. We're like, okay, I'd never say that we are locked into 2-year development cycle every year for the rest of our lives. So whenever we decide what the next game is going to be, that's when we sit back and be like, okay, what are we doing? How drastic is it? Do we need to expand to a 3-year? Do we need to expand to a 4-year? And we'll make that decision then.
And you mean 2-year for Infinity Ward, not for the Call of Duty franchise
Correct,
as a whole?
yeah,
right,
because the Call of Duty comes out every year because, Treyarch's doing one, we're doing one. And that's why we do that, is because there's obviously an appetite for one every year currently. And we can't make a game in a year. You wouldn't want a game we made in a year.
No.
So, that's why we do that.
Yeah.
It's working out great right now. And I mean, the difference between Call of Duty and Guitar Hero, I would say, and I think it's something I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it turned out to be a great decision, is because we have multiple developers, you're actually getting a different style of Call of Duty every year rather than just iterations on the previous one. Because we iterate on Modern Warfare. We don't iterate on Black Ops. And Treyarch iterates on what they're doing. So they're going in 2 separate directions, which a hardcore fan can totally tell the difference between a Modern Warfare game and a Treyarch game. They're both good games, but they're different, And I think that's the one benefit that Call of Duty is having right now over, other yearly iteration games.
Okay.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Very good answer, sir. All right, let's get into the game of the week, which is, I think, we call it game of the week here on Feedback.
Sure, why not?
So hard to pay attention to Adam sometimes. His words are so big, I get lost. The game of the week, although I consider Deus Ex to be, in my mind, a AAA title because I had a hell of a good time with it, it's kind of a sleeper hit to an extent. Everybody knows about this game. This is pretty much the game that is kicking off this very exciting time.
September 6th,
Yes.
a special day.
It's a big,
Even though it's
big
not
time.
as special for me because I already finished it.
Well, and now there's so many more people that are jealous of you.
Yeah.
You
Not
make
just-
it
not
special
just the shirt.
for them.
I can make it special for them. We're talking about Resistance 3.
Yes.
It is a great game. The single-player campaign is just very well designed. It's very I love an organized game.
It's emotional, too.
I didn't find it that emotional.
I found it emotional. When you're in those bunkers and, the guy's sleeping and the dog's on his chest and he wakes up and looks
Oh,
at
yeah.
you as you
Whoa,
walk
spoiler
by.
alert, dude. I haven't played it yet.
That's the most turning point of the game right there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Kevin
Sorry,
Kelly
guys.
also cares about
I
humanity, and
have
you do
no-
not.
I have
so
no
doesn't.
heart.
That's true.
No, I mean, it has that post-apocalyptic storyline. It is actually done very well. A lot of these games have just these plot lines where you're like, why am I in a laboratory? And the answer you can come up with is because the designer thought that a laboratory would make an awesome place for a level, and that's why we're there. And then the explanation got cut out of the animation budget, and so now we're just in a laboratory. This actually is all the way through. I know what I'm doing and why. And the weapons, it has the weapon wheel from Ratchet, also from Resistance 1, but I like to call it from Ratchet.
Yes.
And the weapons upgrade as time goes on, so you're constantly switching weapons, experimenting with weapons, which is a lot of fun. And then when you're you level your shotgun, for example, and then it lights enemies on fire, and they're like, "Arr." It's good times.
Well done. Did you do utility sounds for the game?
I
That was well. I
did.
thought I recognized that. The Mannheim scream
Sounds
of
like the Chimera
Resistance.
right there. It's crazy.
And I want to talk about the the single player campaign before we get
Yes.
into the multiplayer. It is kind of the final chapter in this particular story. They're moving towards an ending to this particular story.
Yeah,
Did
I know.
you
I'm
feel
I'm
like
desperately trying to figure out a way to agree but not give anything away.
Right. But do you feel like Kevin said he got kind of emotional in the game. I know, work past the fact that your heart is black, but did you feel at all like it was an emotion? You had some closure to what the story that they've been telling over the previous games.
Oh, I just don't want to give anything away.
So you could just say
if you played
maybe.
to the end,
If you
I
said
just-
maybe, that'd be
No,
pretty
I'm
good.
about 3/4 of the way through.
I don't want to give anything away about what happens in the end.
Okay.
But so yes, there is closure.
Okay, good.
But I feel like that's giving something away.
No, it's good because you could be like they closed doors. They put clothes on. There's many different ways you
One
can
cool
interpret
thing
that
is that
particular answer.
your main character is not lone wolfing it entirely the whole way. There's a
Yes.
lot of other resistance fighters with him that will
Right.
fight. You'll kind of need to work in tandem with them. And of course, there's the
But-
doctor
but-
that you have to work with.
Yes, but it's at first when I was like, oh Lord, we're going to New York together. This is going to be the longest escort mission of my life. And then you realize that he's quite a hardy fellow and he doesn't need that much protection.
That makes me
So
happy.
it's good.
Actually.
Yeah, it's actually not. It's not an escort mission. He kind of takes care of himself.
Okay.
He sort of helps guide you on the way.
Okay.
And so if you're lost or if you don't know what to do, he's like, "Hey, why don't you go shoot that thing over there?" And you're like, "Oh, I knew that. Totally.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm gonna go shoot that
I was
thing."
talking to
It's got
Adam
6
this
eyes. Of
morning.
course, I'm going to shoot it in the face.
Adam's like, I just love the weapons. You know, he's really geeking out
The thing
over
is, like,
these
'cause
things.
he is a Ratchet fan like I am. I mean, that's the thing. So you see the weapon wheel, and you see they also have, like, the weapons are the same as they are. Some of them are the same as they are in Ratchet. Like, the cryo gun is, like, the same as the liquid nitrogen gun.
Awesome.
There's some like the
It's
marksman gun.
amazing.
You can throw out little turrets that shoot automatically, which
Yeah.
is a cool feature. I mean, I don't know how you'd ever build that into a gun, but hey, I'm glad they did.
I don't
it.
know how
possible,
I'm
dude.
carrying, like, 17 guns on my back at one time. I don't know how that happens either.
It's
but
magic.
Also possible.
Bag of
Don't
holding.
worry about it. Mickey has a magic paintbrush that can paint the world in different ways. There's just things you can do, apparently.
I
But
like that. I like that it's a very realistic sort of environment, but you have the crazy weapons, so you get a little bit of the whimsy of sort of Insomniac games, but you also get that post-apocalyptic. There's rats everywhere. Like, it actually is terribly sad.
There were moments like where you're hiding from those giant leviathan things that
Yeah.
crawl over, and those are some scary like cinematic moments. I've thought when these things are gigantic, enormous, like crawling mech type creatures that
Right.
you cannot kill on your own.
And I also like that you're too busy running away from them to actually look at them. And once you catch a glimpse of it, and you're like, holy.
yeah.
there's a reason I'm running, and that is it right there. And let's talk, I mean, outside of the story, which I know you don't want to spoil, tell me about some of the changes in the single player game. How did the shooting feel? Obviously, the weapons have upgrades, which is pretty cool. But you know, Robert, it was interesting. We were talking about the multiplayer
Yeah.
stuff in Call of Duty. It's a lot of very subtle changes that are making a huge difference, I think, in your game. Was there anything like that
Well,
you
for-
found in Resistance?
For the single player, the weapons had more weight to them, so it felt a little bit more like you were actually doing some damage. And that's something sort of esoteric that I'm not sure exactly. I'm sure you probably know how you can design for that. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it has to do with the sound effects and the vibration on the controller. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things like that. It also, I mean, Resistance 2 had this problem where you only could carry 2 guns, so that when they'd put a shotgun in front of you, they put like 17 shotguns in front of you, and you're like, I think I should probably pick up that shotgun because they're trying to tell me something.
That I'm gonna need.
Whereas if you have all of the weapons at the same time, now you're actually using strategy and you're making decisions. And so that really elevated the game back into something that was really great. It also felt very truly Insomniac, which is something great. Like, they're very happy to be the studio that they are, to revel in the fact that they have these crazy weapons, and I think it's a great thing, and it makes it something special versus something that's kind of a copycat of other games.
Okay. Kevin, did you have the same experience?
Yeah, it's definitely not Resistance 2 and not Resistance 1, which is, I think,
Interesting.
a good thing in,
Yeah.
in many ways. We talked to Ted Price earlier this year, who's the head at Insomniac, who said, we realize there are other companies who do military shooters really well, and we don't want to try to do that. That's not going to be our thing. So they made, because, you know, Nathan Hale, who's the hero of the other games, was he's part of the military, you know,
Yeah.
he's a soldier. Now you've got the Resistance movement, which is totally different. It's nitty and gritty, it's dirty, and he's got a very emotional storyline with his wife and daughter.
Was
Is it a
not
boy or a
emotional.
girl?
It's a boy.
Okay, it's a boy.
There's a hermaphrodite in this game.
Yes, thanks
Day
to the Chimera
one
virus.
purchase.
He's not really a child. He's more just like a little nugget of story motivation.
I'm sure that the real person that was based on loved that description just now. Just so you know, you're really just the inspiration for a little nugget of story.
Story motivation. You got to keep the story moving along.
Kid
Yeah,
sort of turns
that's
into a mitten because he leaves his mitten
does turn into a mitten.
and he picks up the mitten and he's always looking at it and reminding himself of his son and daughter.
There were
or
some
son and wife.
melodramatic points when he like has the whiskey and he's like,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So it's all the cinematics in StarCraft 2, basically.
Yeah,
Because there's
Yes.
so much whiskey
Just
drinking and heavy sighing in that
giant
game.
men, yes.
Yeah, and then again, as we all know, you guys especially, these games cannot stand on their single player experience alone. You have got to have a multiplayer experience. Even a game like Resistance, that's maybe people aren't focusing on the multiplayer as much as say a Modern Warfare 3. It is something that people need to provide in a game. I know, without getting into detail, you did have trouble really getting a feel for the multiplayer, given kind of the review codes we were working with and things like that. But what was the
I
experience?
actually, in the end, was able to get a lot of multiplayer time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm not going to name names, but it wasn't Insomniac's fault
Yeah,
that we were
absolutely.
having multiplayer problems. Anyway. Once I actually was able to get on, the multiplayer is good. It's more than just like it doesn't just show up. It actually is good. It has some great ideas in it. There's a thing called kill streaks you may not have heard of before.
Is that where you kill things? in streaky fashion?
Wild naked, you're streaking.
Oh,
and
I like
killing,
that.
So it's a kill.
Hermaphrodites and streaking, dude. I'll buy 2.
And you have definitely like things that are available to you, like ammo turret things, ammo beacons that you can get that aren't available in single player. It is fun. I don't know how much the multiplayer is going to sell copies of the game, but it is definitely like a solid experience that shows up and is a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Is that an equivocation or what?
No, that's good explanation of it. We had to play the beta earlier, and they've tweaked a lot based on the feedback from that. There were corpse leapers, this ability you can get when you die, your body turns into a bunch of leapers, these little chimera things that are very annoying and a pain in the ass. If you're not paying attention, they'll swarm and kill you.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
They had those in, and then they decided fan feedback was like, these are a little annoying. We need to
They're still in there.
pare back. They're still in there, but they're not. It's not like everybody has it at the same time now, so you don't get it quite as often.
You choose.
Yeah.
So there's the other things that you can choose. So there's sort of perks that you can choose are a little better, I think. So that's why I think that's how they balanced it out a little bit. It's not necessarily the best one that you can do, but if you're real pissed off that you keep dying, that's one you can select.
Yeah, that's fine. And obviously they have the advantage of being the one of the more recognizable console exclusives, right? So people are going to buy this game if they own a PS3. For the story, they really are.
I mean, the PS3 is sort of an underserved market for this kind of game and also for online multiplayer. So I think that it's going to be a good option for people.
Okay.
I mean, it's less so on the Xbox. It's like there's a lot of options.
Right. And that said, though, it's going to draw the inevitable comparisons to a game like Modern Warfare 3 to Battlefield. Like, do you think that
will.
You don't?
No.
Why is that, Morgan Webb?
Don't worry, I'm going to opine.
Please do.
Because it has a lot of like unrealistic things in it. It's just kind of it's a more whimsical, less hardcore experience in a way. And so I think like you get a gun that shoots through walls. I mean, you get these turrets and beacons and all sorts of things like that. So I think it's just going to be a different experience. And I think some people are going to be drawn to it and some people are going to be drawn to a more realistic experience.
Right. So on the single player front, I totally agree with you. However, I think on a multiplayer experience, there are certain bars that have been set and things that people expect. Do you feel like people that are maybe really into multiplayer and other games, are they going to enjoy something like this? Or is it so different of an experience that they're like, I want to go back to,
I honestly think like the multiplayer experiences are getting kind of concentrated on certain titles. And I think it's really hard at this point to take people away from the titles that they're concentrated on. And, they've leveled up in those experiences and they've gotten good at them. And so asking them to become good at a separate experience is going to be difficult. I think people will be definitely on there. People will definitely be playing. I mean, they've had problems with their multiplayer in the past. And don't forget, like their Insomniac is affected by the Sony downtime as anybody else.
Right.
So, they lost a lot of development time during this. So, it does remain to be seen how robust it's going to be. I had a great experience. I was playing with, other journalists, and there weren't that many people online. So we'll see when everyone turns it on and see how it goes. Also, you play with testers who let you win sometimes, which makes it more fun.
Right. Who let you in sometimes is the term
like,
there, yeah. Because they know at any moment they could beat you, but they're like, ooh,
well, of course. I mean, like, they play the game 24 hours. Like, what are they going to... They come in, like, shoot you in the head, and you're like, this game sucks.
Yeah, instant death.
Well,
but they were a little obvious when I, like, spawn in and there's a guy, like, standing in front of me, and he turns and looks at me, and I was just like...
He holsters the gun and takes out the knife.
And then he, like, turns around and starts walking away. I'm like, buddy, come on. Like...
Make it an effort. Yeah.
Right.
Like, make me feel like I'm working for it. But let me just, like, turn around and let me shoot you. It's not fun.
Well, it doesn't seem like we gave it... there aren't a lot of cons in the game, and we actually gave it
I did.
A perfect score.
5 out of 5. The single-player campaign is just a fantastic experience and something that I think every PS3 owner should check out.
Very cool. And then Robert, for you, obviously we're sitting here talking about a game that you did not work on. I'm sorry for ignoring you there, but they told me I had to ignore you. Don't ask Robert any questions. No,
he was smiling and nodding. He was participating.
But you could tell obviously you're a fan of games because you are also interested in this particular conversation. As Morgan said, what they are offering here is a very different experience than what you guys are offering. But on a fundamental level, it's a first-person shooter. Do you guys look at kind of what Insomniac's doing with this game? Or, how do you feel about games like Resistance rolling out? And I know you guys are months apart, so sales are not going to be affected. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But how do you look at games like this when they roll them out?
I never worry about sales regardless. I don't
Right.
worry about sales for
He's
our game.
creative.
He's,
He's a
I worry about
creative strategist.
strategizing creatively.
So that stuff never worries me because I just want to make sure that we're making a good game, and I am happy when guys like I always know Insomniac's going to make a good game because they're an amazing team. But of course we're always looking at what everybody's doing. I mean, especially the top level guys who are amazing at their craft, like Insomniac, like Epic, like DICE. We're looking at what all those guys are doing because it's important. But we really look far more outside our own genre than we do inside our genre. Like what the first-person shooter guys are doing is great because it's important to be aware of. But like what the RPG guys are doing, what the MMO guys are doing, what the racing guys are doing is what I'm always most interested in. Because you can always pull little nuggets, of things that are like, oh wow, that's a really cool experience. How can we get that same aspect of the experience, but in a Modern Warfare style? I mean, that's where the direction we went in perks and progressive ranking and kill streaks. All that stuff came outside our genre, and then we started figuring out how can we do it in a Modern Warfare way. And then, but of course, we look in our own genre too, of like, especially more so than ever in Modern Warfare 3, Spec Ops Survival Mode is a tribute to that of like, let's take the infinite wave-based mode, but do it how Infinity Ward can do it. Right. Which is still a wave-based mode that a lot of games have done really well, Firefight, Horde, but let's bring the stuff that makes our game special in it. Let's bring our kill streaks, let's bring our perks, let's bring our gear, let's bring our style of fast gameplay to it.
Right. And my last question for you, I can't think of any other way to end this before we have to wrap up. I wish we had like 15 hours because I just talked about first-person shooters forever. But my last question for you, do you feel that the first-person shooter space is oversaturated? Do you feel like, is there enough innovation there to keep broadening it, or do you feel like people are really just doing the same thing over and over?
No, I don't. I think, I honestly, I feel like maybe a year or two ago, we were starting to get like step on each other's toes and getting stale. But I feel like recently we have all realized, like you said, that at our core we're shooters. But let's put our personalities back into it. Let's stop trying to copy each other and let's go in our own directions. And regretfully, right now, from a player standpoint, you see a lot of unjust comparisons of like, oh, I don't like that game, I like this game. And it's like, well, that's okay. Right. And because Gears of War is completely different than Call of Duty. Right. And Resistance is completely different than Call of Duty. You're both shooting guns, but the personality that the developers put into it is putting us in different directions. So I think there's still a lot of life in first-person shooters, obviously. But I'm hoping to see other genres, close that gap and come up to that level of hopefully doing the same thing that we're doing in the shooter genre currently and being like, how can we pull these sorts of experiences into our genres? Right.
Yeah, kill streaks in Forza would be fantastic. No, do not listen to me on that. Well, thank you, Robert, for being here, man. I know you're a busy guy. It's a busy time for you, so we appreciate you taking the time out for us. Kevin, as always, well, you work here, so you had to be here.
I did. It was required.
Yes, Morgan, you love me, and so it's just, I misread our friendship a little bit. Thank you guys for being here as well. If the seance is successful, Adam will be back next week, we hope. But until then, you can catch all the episodes at g4tv.com/feedback. I'm Blair Herter, and I'm not wearing pants.
It's actually true.
It is true.
Hello there. I'm Adam Sessler, host of X-Play, editor-in-chief at g4tv.com. I talk a lot about video games, and sometimes a camera is in front of me when I'm doing that. We call that Sessler's Soapbox. It takes about 2 minutes of your time, but trust me, you will hear invective and joy and probably a lot of rude things like you've never heard before in the context of video games. I do it for you, so you should check it out. It's up every Tuesday on g4tv.com.